In this video, we're going to be talking about how to fix sales conversion profit leaks inside of your business. Presumably, you're watching this right now because you just completed your profit leak detector assessment and the results told you that you have a profit leak related to your sales conversion process. So we're going to talk about how to fix that. Now, one thing I say all the time is that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And your business is nothing more than a bunch of links connected together into one business chain. And so, for example, you have your marketing link, your sales link, your fulfillment link, your back office link, your HR link, all those links combined together to make your business. And at any given point, your business has exactly one weakest point. Your job as an entrepreneur, if you want to grow a healthy business as quickly as possible that pays you a bunch of money with the least amount of effort, is to allocate all of your resources into finding your current weakest link and then fixing just that link. There's always going to be fires to put out in business. There's always going to be problems to solve. That is the nature of business, whether your business just started or whether you're doing $1 trillion a year in revenue. There's always going to be fires to put out, but there's also only going to be one weakest link at a time. And so your job as an entrepreneur is to find and fix that weakest link, at which point there's another weakest link that pops up, then you find and fix that one, and another one will pop up, you find and fix that one, and before long, you have a big, beautiful business. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about these two links right here, marketing and sales. They kind of go hand in hand. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of what's called a sales funnel, right? So just like any funnel here, you have this cone shape, and you have things that go in the top, and these are going to be leads or your ideal customers. And then you have things that go out the bottom, and those are going to be sales. So at the end of the day, the goal of any business at its highest level is to take inputs, so things you put into the system, and get outputs, which are things that go out of the system. So in this case, we're putting in leads, we're putting in people, interested buyers potentially, and we're getting out finished sales, right? Now, in a perfect world, we want the funnel, instead of looking like this conal shape, we actually want it to look like a rectangle. We want one sale in, or one lead in, one sale out. To my knowledge, the only way that's possible is by selling illegal substances. Don't do that, it's bad. But this is the ideal we want to shoot for. We want as close to a 1-to-1 ratio as we can have, right? So if we have like 100 leads to get one sell, that's not a great ratio. We want to find a way to only get the most qualified prospects going into the funnel so we don't have to spend so much effort with time wasters, and to get as many of those prospects out. Now, what you'll find is that each sales funnel is broken up into different steps, right? Think like an assembly line in a factory. So the first step, it might be an intro phone call. And then after that, it might be, you send them a formal bid, or you meet with them and design the thing that they want, whatever it is. And then you send the formal bid. Whatever it is, you have these different steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leading all the way up to a sell, right? Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to calculate the percentage between each step of the funnel, which then helps us to figure out our bottlenecks, right? So if it turns out that we lose, 90% of our people from step 1 to step 2, well, that might be an opportunity for us to improve the funnel. If it turns out that we lose 90% of the people from step 4 to step 5, well, that could be the bottleneck of the funnel. But the important thing is that we know the steps and that we have a process in place for tracking the results between the steps. If you can't track it and you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And you definitely can't make improvements if you don't know where things are, right? As you go about tracking the results of this funnel, there are a few important metrics that you need to understand. So the first one is what's called CAC, customer acquisition cost. That's how much money you need to get a customer in your business, right? The next one you need to know is LTV, or lifetime value. And that's just simply how much money will this customer pay you before they stop being your customer. Some other important ones are 30 days cash collected, and then closing rate is another important one. If you track just these 4 metrics, you're already ahead of most businesses out there. So let's talk about CAC first. Now with CAC, you need to know how much money does it cost you to take a lead and to finally get a sell, right? Presumably you're going to need quite a few leads to get one sell. Maybe it's like a 5-to-1 ratio, right? You have a 20% lead to close ratio. So up here, we'll do 5 to get one sell. Now, let's just say that we know that, we run paid ads or whatever. Let's say it's $50 per lead, which means that we have a $250 more or less CAC. That's not the true CAC though, the true customer acquisition cost, because doing all these steps also costs money. So if you want a more accurate CAC, you should factor that stuff in, like the labor and time and things like that. Let's say, for example, that after labor, we'll give a pretty high CAC. We'll say it's $500 to get a customer, right? Well, the reason this is important is if we have a $500 CAC and we sell something for $10,000, that's a hell of a deal. I would just pour as much money as I could into that funnel because that's a really good deal. Now, if we have a $500 CAC, but we only make $100, you just went bankrupt. Congratulations. So it's important to know the CAC because you need to know how much you have to pay to get a customer. But what's more important is the relationship between CAC and the lifetime value, or how much money the customer is going to pay you. Because once again, paying $500 to get a $10,000 customer, that's a good deal. $500 to get a $100 customer, a very bad deal. We don't want to do that. Now, the other metric that I want to talk about is the 30 days cash collected. The reason this one is important is because if you can pay $500 to get a customer, and then you get $10,000, but it takes 10 years to get that $10,000, well, now you have this problem where your business can only grow so fast. But if you can pay $500 and you collect, let's say half of this in the first 30 days, $5,000, well, you can now take that $5,000 and reinvest that into getting more customers. And you can grow forever organically. You don't need any debt. You don't need any financing, anything like that. Your business can just grow and grow. So one of the most important things to understand when it comes to diagnosing your own sales funnel is how long does it take you to get the CAC out of your customer once they actually start doing business with you. If you can't pay for the CAC in 30 days, you're always going to have a harder time growing your business rather than if you can. And so then what we would do, this is more towards business model stuff, but we'd try to figure out, okay, how can we take some of this 10K or 2K or 800 or whatever it is, and how can we pull as much of that forward to keep paying for CAC? And that way you can keep acquiring more customers, right? The last metric we want to understand is this closing ratio or closing percentage, and why does that matter? Well, at the end of the day, what's more important than the number of leads closed is the cost to acquire the lead, right? So I have a portfolio company that will do over $6 million this year. It will pay me over $1 million in profit, and I only work in it for about 3 to 5 hours per week. And most of that work is just optional. I wouldn't even have to do it if I didn't want to, but I love it. It brings meaning to my life. So I keep doing it. Now, that business has a close rate that's around 9%. We'll bump it up to 10% for the sake of the discussion. So that means that we have to talk to 10 leads for every close we get. Now, there's some reasons for that. Generally, a 10% close rate indicates a bit of a problem, but given the nature of this business, it kind of is what it's going to be. Now, it doesn't matter that we have to talk to 10 people to get one close. What matters is how much we have to pay to get the close in relation to how much they're going to pay us, right? On average, it costs us between $21 to $22 to acquire a lead, and then it takes 10 leads to get a customer. So on average, we're looking, $220 to $250 to get a customer. Once again, if we look at our lifetime value and our 30 days cash collected, if those numbers are not above $250, or at least if the profit from those numbers is not above $250, then we're boxing ourselves into a corner and our business will not grow. But with this particular business, it's pretty sweet. So on average, our lifetime value, we have two customer segments. We have B2B, so we have our business clientele base, and we have our consumer clientele base. Consumers, on average, are paying us about $1,800, and business is paying us on average of $2,200, and some of them even pay us like up to $40,000, right? So they can pay us quite a bit. Now, because we pay about $250 in ad costs to acquire a customer that's going to pay us at least $1,800 or $2,200 to $40,000, the metrics of that funnel work. But it all comes down to this ratio between the customer acquisition cost and the lifetime value. Now, every business is different, so there's no like hard and fast rules of thumb, but generally you're looking to get about a 6-to-1 return. So if you put $1 into your ads or into commissions for outbound reps or whatever it is, you want to get $6 in revenue out. That's kind of the baseline. If you're below that number, you've got a problem, likely related to one of these steps not working out very well, or from paying for the wrong leads that are going into the funnel to begin with. After all, you could have the perfect funnel, but if you're putting the wrong people into the funnel, it's not going to convert. So you need to make sure you're putting the right traffic in, but you also need to make sure that these steps are optimized to give you the best results possible so you can get this $6 earned for every dollar spent ratio. Ideally, we want it more than that. Right now in this portfolio company, we're about 11-to-1, which is pretty cool. And that's why it's on track to do $6 million this year. It will pay me over $1 million in profit as the owner of the business, and I'm not even doing that much work to do it. Very nice part-time job, highly recommend. And next year, there's a chance that we may even double from there. We might go from 6 million, it might be paying me closer to $3 million in profit. I would be very happy with that, by the way. Now let's get into some more granular nuances of diagnosing your sales funnel to make sure you're optimizing your conversions properly. So there's a few things that we want to understand. And the first one is we want to always be using the best possible script or process at any given time. For most small businesses, you as the owner are going to be the best at closing sales. And so what you want to do is you want to have the standard being what you would do. So if you take 10 phone calls, go and write down what you say in those 10 phone calls. What questions are you asking? How are you answering the phone? When do you know someone's wasting your time? When do you know when to send them the brochure or a formal proposal or whatever, right? You document all that stuff down. You can do it in a Word doc or whatever, a Google doc. You just write it down. And then at that point, you have some basic documentation. Now, once you have that documentation, this needs to be the recipe that your team follows. So the way that I recommend doing this is you spend, say 10 calls documenting this out, writing it out. Okay, this is how I do this. And then the next 10 calls you personally do, but the difference is that instead of you using your brain, you can only use the documentation to do that. Once you do that, you'll probably notice, just being real, that your documentation wasn't good enough. And so then you can go and fix it up and you can change things that would make it better or whatever, or add in things you forgot. But once you do that and you're satisfied with the results and you more or less get as good of a results from following the documentation as you got just going out of your brain, then what you do is you bring someone else in to do that process and you teach them that process while you monitor them. And then once you see the results from that and you're happy with the results, then you have them do the process without you monitoring them, make sure you're happy with the results. And at that point, you now have a standard. And this is something that all of your team members can follow, and that becomes the best version. Well, once you have the best version, the goal is then how do you beat the best version? And so you're going to start running tests. Once you run tests, hopefully, it might take you 4 or 5 tries, but hopefully you'll find a test that yields better results than the best. That test then becomes the new standard. You train people how to do that. And then that one is what you try to beat, right? There's this concept called A/B testing, and that's essentially what we're trying to do here, right? So we have method A, and we're going to try, we're going to split test that. We're going to do B and C. And, maybe we'll even do D, so maybe we'll do 3 tests at a time. We'll say, hey, D's actually the winner, and then you split test that. So D becomes a standard, and you split test that to A and B. B's the winner in this case, that's better than A, then you split test that. And over time, you just keep split testing, measuring the data and seeing which is better. As soon as you create a new best, that becomes a standard. And you're going to do that for every step in the process. So whether it's a phone call, an email script, whether it's a brochure tour or an on-site consultation or a quote or an inspection, whatever it is, you're always looking to test for the best version. Once you find the best version, you plug it back into your funnel. And what you'll find is over time, your conversions get better. Once again, this is the ideal. You want 1 lead, 1 close. You'll never quite get there, but you want to get as close as you can. And so as you test the steps of the funnel and you track the data, you're going to be able to make the optimizations needed to one day have a sales machine that's converting well and that's making you a ton of money. I hope this content has been really useful for you when it comes to identifying problems in your sales conversion process and figuring out how to fix those. The important thing here is that there's no magic answer to fixing the sales conversion process, but the framework of test, measure, bring in a new standard, try to beat that one, test, measure, measure, bring in the new standard, beat that one. That is the process that you need to understand to really fix the sales conversion issues in your business for good. Then ideally before long, your sales conversion process is good enough that going back to a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, that's no longer the problem in your business. Then maybe you need to focus on how to get more leads or focus on fulfillment so you can keep up with all the demand, whatever it is. I want to invite you to take advantage of something that I believe will change the trajectory of your business forever. And that is to participate in one of our 2x profit audits. What is the 2x profit audit, you ask? Great question. It's where my team and I take a deep dive look into every link of your business chain. And we're looking for those pesky profit leaks that might be hiding, quietly destroying your margins and keeping you from getting paid what you deserve as the owner of your business. But not only will we find the profit leaks, we'll also come up with a strategy of how to fix them if we had your resources, your team, and your skill set. We then compile it all together in this nice little report, and we meet with you over a Zoom call 1-to-1, and we share the results with you. This right here is an actual audit that we did not long ago for one of our clients where we were able to uncover $700,000 of leaking profit in just the course of this audit. And the crazy thing is, these profit leaks could be fixed in about 1 month of work. Mind-blowing. The business owner has been making $600,000 per year in profit, but they got stuck. They didn't know how to fix it. We were able to uncover how they could create an additional $700,000 a year in profit, all as part of this audit. For the time being, we're actually doing these audits for free. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first one being the 2X Profit brand is a pretty new brand and not a lot of people know us. So we're trying to do as many of these audits as possible so we can capture content that we can then put out for the world to see. And then business owners can decide whether they want our help in helping them scale their businesses and fix their profit leaks. The second reason that we do this for free is some business owners will take the audit results and they'll be like, hey, peace out. I'm going to go execute this myself. Good for them. They get new profit. They didn't pay anything for it. Yay, that's awesome. Hopefully they send us some referrals, right? But there's a lot of business owners that are like, wow, I could really use a team like this to come into my business and actually build these systems out and fix these problems for me so I don't have to do it. And so my team doesn't have to do it. This is how we actually make money here at 2X Profit, is when business owners hire us to execute the plan on their behalf. Now, if you'd like my and my team's help finding, diagnosing, and fixing your profit leaks so you can have a healthier business that's less dependent on you, the next step is to scroll down, click on the button that says apply for my 2X Profit audit. You fill out the short questionnaire. My team will then review the results and get back to you within 24 hours to let you know if you're a good fit or not. If you are, we'll reach out to schedule time for a call and we can go to that point. So what are you waiting for? Scroll down, click the button. Let's do this.